Hey, my name is Scotty, and in this tutorial I'll show you how to sketch this boathouse using my loose ink and watercolor sketching technique, focusing on how to sketch reflections. So I've got my 7x5" page here. So I always start with the main shapes, and because it's mostly in that top section, let's divide this page into half. I'm going to put a dot and half around the page there, and on the other side too. And now between those 2 points, dot right in the middle. On each side, let's put 2 dots. And on this side, now I have 6 sections going across. I like to start with the closest edge so I can see how tall the building is. Put a dot here, and that will be our anchor point for the whole building right there on the page. So that's 4 lengths across, and coming down just slightly, because this one is right on that halfway line there. From that dot to that dot there, if you turn it, it equals to the height. So I have that point there. Now I have almost the height. Now we want the other dot so we can draw the big shape. So directly above this one, so a dot there, same thing, I'm looking at the side of the page. So it's a subtle angle on the front there. But let's break it down a bit further, especially if you're a beginner. If we go to halfway between the 2 points and then go down a tad, very subtly down, and then across to here, it's probably about the same as this height there. I think it'll be easier now we've got that section there where the red top of the building is. Let's outline that. This top line like this. Wobbly loose lines down there. Now to get that point at the top there, we'll go halfway between here and then from there go up. Let's join those points up and to there. Ooh, wobble. Now let's add thickness to the roof. Nice white bar there. Back that way. Now this point here, if you go up from this point, it's about a little bit to the right. So let's angle that up. Now let's start drawing the logs, and this is going to be a little bit more wobbly because they're double line there. Just try your best. So I'll put a circle here, put a circle at the top here. Okay, we've got gap right through there. And in this section it has lots of little pieces of timber that have been stored in there, and join them up. There we go, we've got a square. The dots, you can move them around till you feel they're right. Now I'm going to outline that square, and I'm just making these horizontal. And then let's continue those down. Top of the door, also draw a line there. Let's outline that rectangle. Straight across, vertical beams, we have 4 of those. And then one this way. Little tiny spikes. Like this. Up again for the one behind. So there's a water line. So put that line in. And then down. There's 2 logs there. Just draw a line with some rocks. Distant ocean. Now we have all of the line work and the structure for the boathouse. What about for the reflection? We can actually put points on the page where this reflection goes to, which will help us with watercolor. We'll measure that distance, and we'll come down from that point there. And put a dot there. Get that distance on the side and also come down, and the same on this side and here. So that height there we could also measure down, and this will help with the watercolor on each side. So now I can paint the reflection of the logs in here and then the red of the building here. Now I've done all the line work, let's get on to watercolor. So I have my round 10 brush, and I've also got my round 12 ready to go for the bigger areas of watercolor. So we'll start with the building, and we'll use alizarin crimson. So I'll start at the bottom, where it's going to be the darkest. There we go, up. Very light wash now. Tiny gap between the 2. I have burnt sienna, and have it there. Around this. There's one along here. Then there's some more of that dirty kind of rust color there. Okay, great. Next color I'm going to use is Payne's Grey. Just put in a dark one there, and this log is a dark color. In between every second one, it's a little bit darker. Now we're going to use cadmium yellow. Come across there. I use this Viridian green. See how light it is, very transparent between the yellow. And I'm going to use cerulean blue for the sky. Just a nice loose stroke goes across like that. Wash a bit out. Now continue bringing it down. And then now it's almost clear water. Okay, so now we've done the top half, all the simple colors. We're going to work on the reflection now. Already got all the colors we've used for the top, which is really handy. And we've got these dots. So the first step to doing the reflections is actually to do a mirror copy of what we've already done, but the secret is to think about the ripples. They have an angle about this amount, goes right across. And the reflection, we're going to keep that same saturation as you had here. We're going to do an impressionistic wispy line. And so I'm trying to get at that, all this angle. Use that as an inspiration to make that bottom section. See, I'm trying to keep them in this way, even though it's drawing a line. It's a bit tricky. And it continues this way. So that bit there is reflecting into the ocean here. These are long, thinner lines here. So we're getting the idea of those dark reflections. So between these two dots, we are still aiming at that angle. With a stroke, you can have those little edges which are great for the ripples. And now we're coming up to this corner here. So I know there's a window there, so I'm going to leave a gap in the middle. And going across here is just in that where the window is, you can see the ripples reflect the red through it. And then a second one like this. Some brush strokes there, and then there's a line, and now a wobbly line here, wobble, wobble, wobble. I'm still trying to get that direction, just a bit there across, the same way I did that darker line. And even in the bottom, make that bone dry so you're ready for the next step. Now let's do the water, and I'm going to use turquoise as a color, add water in to water it down. So I'm going to start with the blue at the bottom, and make my way up until it's quite transparent at the top. And I'm just going to hold my brush lightly and swipe across the bottom there, whatever happens, going across very lightly. Now wash your brush, wipe it a bit. See how I'm going up? It's a bit lighter now, right up to the edges. So that was the first two steps. We had the reflection, we're copying that color. The second step was to add the water over the top. And the third step is to add shadows to the building and the water. I'm going to use ultramarine with some permanent rose of a darker purple. We'll start at the top and just go right across this whole section of the building, because that is all in shadow there. Once again, just between those dots, some swipes left to right, following the strokes I did before. Okay, you can leave gaps there where the water cuts through it. A little bit out here, there's some shadowy lines there. Bit more in shadow these sections on this side, and inside this cutout. Then on this side, in between the logs, the lighter logs, let's do shadow in there, and then the side of the door, just in the inside bit there. Now that really did add a lot more depth. And once again, gonna let that dry. And we're not done yet with the water. We're gonna add a fourth layer now of the ripples, and you can see the ripples, they're at that angle again. And they're darker ripples just going across here. So let's do that, just nice strokes like this. And thinner as they go. And they're very, very small here up the top. Even some dots there. Let's add some dark points and then some highlights around the top bit. So all I'm doing here is adding a little stroke of interest there. Little red dots around the corners just to show it's that red. Then tap my finger and adding just a little dots around where that dirty water is against the side. And see that contrast is bring us back up. So I have my Uniball Signo pen, and we're going to add just a few highlights. Let's add a little line across there. A little bit more white around this border. Sometimes it's nice to have little sparkles in the dark area. Little tiny white dots that is reflected just subtly here. So I'm just going to add a little dot there, and then if you come down this way, dots in the water. So that's how I sketch this boathouse with a nice reflection using ink and watercolor. If you like the full tutorial, it's a lot longer and you can follow the steps a little bit more easier. That's over on my Patreon membership for that full tutorial, the high-res reference. You can also access my full library of other tutorials and fundamentals for beginners, really good. And there's a community where you can post your sketch and ask me any question. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.